one is interesting.
All right, fellas, welcome back to the Rock of Truth podcast. I am here live with my co-host Nick Statterman and Jake Sopko. Real quick before we get started, Rock of Truth is sponsored by Serenity Apparel. In a society constantly telling people who to be and where to go, Serenity Apparel vitalizes a different path, your path. Follow your passion, stay true to your values, and find hashtag Serenity and who you were created to be. Use code ROCK10 for 10% off your purchase at shopserenityapparel.com. Serenity Apparel, welcome to your escape. You can also follow us on Twitter at Rock of Truth Pod and on Instagram at Rock of Truth Pod. Fellas, welcome back for another week here. Let's get this baby started.
What up,
Big
Joe?
W.
Let's do it.
Big W. And dude, big night for the Rock of Truth. Our first live show on the Bearcat Journal Network. This is exhilarating. I haven't felt this way in who knows how long since I was on the field, man. This is something.
Yeah. Got a little butterflies.
100%. Big shout out to Chad and Aaron, the Bearcat Journal family, for allowing us to be on here and giving this opportunity. We're super grateful and excited to work with you guys, man. So
for sure.
You boys were there. Tell me about the experience in Paycor Stadium, watching the Bearcats bring the bell back home to the beautiful
Paycor. Yeah. Paycor Stadium kind of sucks. You guys agree with me on that?
I don't like it. I never liked it. I think it's
compared to Nipper, it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean compared to any NFL stadium, I'm just not a fan. It doesn't have much going on for me.
It actually kind of reminds me of Indiana Stadium last year. I know we're going to jump into that later on, but just a concrete block, just the sun beating down on you. Nothing really cool about anything going on in the stadium. That's how I kind of felt about Paycor Stadium.
What was the atmosphere like, though? I mean, I watching it on TV, it sounded like the Bearcat fans were pretty loud, at least on TV. But being in there, what was it like?
Yeah, it was definitely loud. Bearcat Nation held it down. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise. It's literally, in our city. So I think giving our fans any chance to go watch the Bearcats, they're going to jump all over it, I think. I just think it's weird with having college games in pro stadiums when they're not packed. I just think it's just like a weird, I don't know, kind of like an awkward vibe to me.
I agree. It kind of takes away that on-campus feel. And yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So Miami I think it's like a 15 or 16 game home win streak. Since they were technically the home team, doesn't that count against breaking their streak on Saturday? Or is that why they kind of moved it to Paycor Stadium? That's kind of been my question all week. Did they do this on purpose knowing they were going to lose? It's just a weird thing. They don't let our recruits come. They don't want to let us have recruits there, all this kind of stuff behind the scenes, but they get to keep the streak at, is it called Jaeger? What's their home stadium called? Jaeger Stadium? Or
I believe it's Jaeger Stadium. Yeah. If I were them, I would lean all into that. I would just pretend like this game never happened if it wasn't on that field, and then just kind of if they keep winning and keep putting their graphics out and stuff like that, and just act like it never happened. That's what I would do.
I don't know if a neutral site affects the record. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but I don't think technically it was a neutral site. I don't think that.
I think you can do whatever you want. I mean, UCF put 2017 national champions on their stadium, dude, in all bright letters. I think anything goes at this point. Am I wrong?
No, but with you working down with Icon down there in Orlando, do people still talk about their phantom national championship that's fake? Do they mention that to you?
A little bit. So when I work out at the gym down the street, all I have to work out is UC football clothes, because that's what I did for the past 6 years. So all my workout gear is you think people are probably like, what's this guy's deal? We get it. You played football, because it's all I wear. Cincinnati stuff, because that's all I have. But there's a lot of people there that are wearing UCF gear, and they're giving me dirty looks and stuff like that. But when I first met people at UCF, dude, there's bad blood. There really is. They see us as a rival, and which that's kind of how we saw when we were playing, and we had some good games. But they have a strong distaste for the University of Cincinnati down here, and we'll save that for down the road for another time. But we can do a whole bit on that. But let's dive into the game, dude. Slow start. And what we talked about was, hey, if they're going to start out fast, it's going to be, it could be a bloodbath. And we started out the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, I got to the game late. I walked into the stadium, saw it was 10-0 already. I was like, oh, here we go. But, I mean, we responded well, 38-7 total run, I think, after, or to close the game. So, I don't know. Slow starts.
Do we have 3 or 4 turnovers on
the game? We had 3.
Did we have 3 or 4 turnovers?
3.
It was quite a few. It was it wasn't good, and
okay. 2 fumbles and a pick.
2 fumbles and the pick off the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough start, but I mean they looked unfazed, which is what you want. The offense didn't really bother them. They went down and scored and were confident. Ben started great. I think he was like 12 of 12 to start the game. He looked confident. He was slinging the ball around. And when those guys are giving him, I was really impressed too, the way he's getting through his reads when the offensive line's giving him time. I mean, it's not just like he's getting the ball out quick, but there's times you can see him go from first progression, second progression, third progression. He's working the field and all that, which is good to see. And then also the RPO game. That's something that Dez was absolutely incredible at, but he did it more so with his legs. And there was like a lot of times last year where there was so many things that were messed up front, and Dez just was so damn good that he made it work. And I think Ben, in a little bit of different ways, he's getting those quick slants, those glances and stuff like that. He's just reading a key defender. If he plays the run, he's dropping it over his head. He had a bunch of completions on that early. And that's huge. That's something that you like to see. Yeah, you can pulling up the stats here. I mean, 26 of 35, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Still pretty solid, man. The kid's still playing pretty darn well.
And a pick just
as a quarterback. Can I ask you a question as a quarterback, Coach Sopko?
Yes, you can ask me a question
as a quarterback. That's awesome. Real quick. So, like, there was a few throws he made that were really impressive, I thought, where he throws it, where he's almost throwing it a little bit behind his receiver, but it looked like almost purposeful, so his receiver just wouldn't get absolutely clocked by the safety. Like, there was a few he did that with Trey Tucker. It looked purposeful to me. Like, he did it a few times where it looked purposeful to me. Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, is that a thing that you do as a quarterback? Like, I've never really seen that before, so that's what I'm kind of trying to dig at when I ask you that question.
Yeah, if you're a good one, you do. And Ben's a good one. So you see a safety coming down like that, and you lead him, you're going to lead him right into the safety, and the dude's going to get smacked, right, on those kind of glances and slants that I was talking about. So he's purposely putting it low and away or on his outside shoulder so he can catch the ball and turn the opposite shoulder. And that was the thing that we would always talk about. So, like, if you're throwing a hitch route or a curl or something like that, you want to put it on the receiver's shoulder on the way you want him to turn. So like Tyler Scott is great at this. So if Ben's throwing something on Tyler Scott's outside shoulder, he knows that when he's making that catch, that's where Ben wants him to spin because the defender's inside. And it's like high level things that it's hard to do. And that's the difference between, catching the ball, getting tackled for a 12-yard gain, or putting in the right spot so he can turn the right way. And a 12-yard gain turns into a 25-yard gain or whatever it might be.
Okay. That's sweet. I just thought I'd ask. I mean, I thought he played a really, really good game.
What a breakdown. Yeah.
Thank you. I tried to. I thought he played well too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then just to touch on the defense, Ivan Pace, we say it every week, revenge game continues to stand out. I mean, that guy's kind of unreal, right?
Yeah,
he's the best defender. He's the best defender. He's the best defender on the team, in my opinion. Like, I don't think it's even close right now.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
He's definitely holding it.
I think so too. Shep, we have the stats right here. Shep looks good. That's somebody I mentioned when we were talking before we got on here. I think he's been really solid. He obviously had huge shoes to fill, playing in the boundary, taking over for
Yeah.
Sauce. I think he's been solid. We haven't really played anybody who's great at throwing the ball, so he hasn't been tested all that much. I think Indiana throws the ball around a little bit more, which we'll talk about. So this will probably be his biggest test so far, but I think he's looked solid as well.
Yeah, I just like how he plays. He's just physical out on the outside edge and doesn't give up his ground. That's what you got to be. Not afraid to put his nose on the football too. I know our DBs a lot of times they're taught to be really aggressive, and sometimes it gets penalties, but it is what it is. You'd rather have your DB be aggressive than just sitting back soft and allowing that guy to run a route or make a catch. So I agree. I think he's playing great.
So I don't know how familiar you two are with the new freshman JQ Hardaway. He's like a top 170 guy in the country coming out of high school. I mean, he's a stud. On Saturday, he came around and flew off the edge and had like a QB sack. And he just looks like a freak athlete when he's running and playing. Obviously, he's going to be a big part of the defense in the future. I wonder if he's going to kind of have a Sauce moment this year where he gets in a big game at some crucial point. I'm kind of waiting for it. Like with this Indiana game coming up, I'm hoping maybe he sneaks his way on the field like Coach Denbrock, gets him in there and he just makes a big play. Because, I mean, he is fun to watch. So I'm excited about that because I think the chance of even him playing across from Shep and getting Arquan maybe in, I know, he's good at guarding the interior more than he is on the outside. Is that correct? I mean, that's where he's kind of his specialty is.
Yeah, he's definitely more comfortable in the slot. That's what he's been playing for a couple of years. So he's definitely more comfortable out there. And I don't think Coach Denbrock will be the one putting JQ out there just because he's the offensive coordinator at LSU now. But
my bad. I meant that was a big miss by me. My bad.
I didn't know if
Coach Tressel, my bad.
I didn't know if I wanted to let it slide or be an asshole and call you out.
Be an asshole in that moment. We don't like Coach Denbrock. I mean, Coach Tressel.
Bringing it back, Joe. That was I know exactly the play you're talking about, and I mean, yeah, he just was screaming off the edge, and I think just coming in and making a play right away, just taking advantage of that opportunity to go get a snap is, talks to the kind of kid he is, but also just he's definitely a guy that can go out there and make plays. So I think, he definitely will get some more opportunities just down the line. Football season's a long season, and I think, at some point they are gonna have to throw him out there and just see how he does. And I'm excited for that moment because I agree. It was an impressive play, and then just watching the rest of his snaps just was, pretty high on him. Like he's gonna be a good player.
Do we have any
just to
moments?
wrap up that game? Go ahead.
Go for it, dude.
All right, yeah. Just to wrap up the game, just moving on. I mean, finally leading the series. I know, Joe, you want us to get out of it, but just the last 10 possessions, I was impressed by this. By Miami, Ohio, they scored 0 points. They had 83 yards, 6 punts. They turned it over on fourth down twice. I think one was at like the 1 yard line, I believe, and then they also threw an interception. So, slow start, like we said, just starting 10-0, but really just dominated the rest of the way. And I think that's, moving forward, I think maybe we got a little rhythm found, both offensively and defensively, going into it is a big game. It's not Indiana of old or some great Big Ten team, but it's still a big game because it's the next game. So I think I'm excited to see how we come out this week. Sorry.
Yeah, and let's dive into that game. Before we even do that, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's hopped on our live stream. I see some comments over here. We see you guys. We appreciate your support. Keith asked, "Is this a Browns jersey?" It is. It's a vintage Bernie Kosar jersey. I'm rocking it. I'm a Cleveland boy, diehard Browns fan, so I got the stream on down here. I'm not going to act like I'm not, peeking at the score as well. They're about to let up a touchdown. If you guys were wondering, so you hate to see that, but really appreciate you guys hopping in here and kind of watching us do our thing and showing support. But let's talk Indiana, man. Joe, can you recap your experience at Indiana last year before we dive into this year?
For anyone listening or for anyone in here right now, I'm sure there's some people here that were at that Indiana game. I know, Coach Sopka, you were there. One of the worst experiences of my life in an away stadium. I don't ever intend on ever going back. It's like I said earlier, it's a concrete bowl. The sun is literally beating on you. The fans were acting as if it was Ohio Stadium or the Big House, which was like part of the issue the whole time. I had like guys dropping F-bombs to me and telling me Coach Fickle's going to USC, which didn't happen. I had guys like when we were down 14-0, we scored to make it 14-7. I think it was at the end of the half. And like a guy like turned around, like double birded me. He was like, he's like Fickle's going to USC, double birded me. He's like scoreboard. I mean, it was like the most obnoxious thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like I've been to a lot of away stadiums for Bearcat games, and none ever will probably ever come close to the day we went to Indiana in the middle of September, and the fans there acted as if this was the Big House, Ohio Stadium, Beaver Stadium. I mean, you would have thought they were the cream of the crop in the Big Ten. And it's like you had to tell them, like, you guys are the doormat of the Big Ten. So I don't like Indiana, and it's just from that one experience last year in football. I don't know who else was here or there, I guess, but it sucked. And they suck, like as a school and as a fan base.
It looked wasn't it pretty hot? I wasn't there.
Dude, it was so hot. I remember it was, I mean, I don't know what it was. It had to have been like 90 and sunny. Like it was like a very hot day in general, but like that stadium, like there was like no shade. Even in the stands, I'm sure it was hot up there. There was no shade. I remember that being one of the hotter games. I mean, I was coaching. Like I wasn't really doing anything. I was coaching. I remember being like, this is like uncomfortably hot. And their fans were super mean, dude. Like I didn't have a lot of interactions with them, but we were right behind the student section. And it's kind of fun, like when you can get that, but they were like really giving it to us. And obviously we didn't play well for the majority of the game. It felt like, they got after it, dude. They really did. I mean, I know like everybody says like Joe, you're like, I've heard a lot of, it's not just you who said that. I've had a lot of different people tell me like the same experience that you just said, Joe. A lot of people did not enjoy their time there, but they did create a hostile crowd. I mean, it really was. It wasn't like it was a great environment. Like their student section showed up. It was a great environment. They were just jerks. Like the guy, like we scored a touchdown. We were just like cheering and high-fiving. There was nothing like over the top about our celebration. We were like playing bad. We're down 14-0. We score, and this like scrawny dude in front of me stands up, turns around, and he's no more than like 5 feet away from me, and he double birds me and says like, check the effing scoreboard. Fickle's going to USC. Fickle's going to USC, and he turns around, looks back at the field, and me and my buddies like look at each other like, do we do anything about that, or do we just kind of sit here and like kind of let the game play out? We sat there and let the game play out, but like the guy, like we had so many stories like that throughout the game. I got home and I was like, I need to go to bed. Like that was a long day.
They were just afraid of you, dude.
Listen, this 5'7" frame, he looked at me and he was like, all right, I'm going to turn back around once he said it, you know?
Dude, can you?
Joe, I got a question for you.
Go for it.
What's been? You said you've been to a lot of away stadiums to see the Bearcats. Which one's been your favorite?
See, people are not going to like this. I had a ton of fun at UCF.
Maybe non-bowl game.
Non-bowl game. I had a ton of fun at UCF in Orlando. I remember like how loud it was, and part of why it was so loud, I'm not going to give them too much credit, was like obviously College Game Day was there, and people just showed up, and it was awesome, and the atmosphere was pretty cool. And I remember like us having a few false starts on that first series, but there was like like the place was legitimately bouncing. I don't know if Sopka was there. I don't know if you remember, but like they were going like, oh, and then they would go UC. And it was kind of so cool that there was a certain point where I was like having to refrain myself from kind of cheering along because it was like loud and bouncing. that was cool. And also, I loved going to Navy. We went to Annapolis, and we lost that game, which was sad. But that was like the first year under Fickle. We gave up like a 50 burger to Navy's triple option. But their fans were just super nice. Just a cool place to watch football, and great fans and great people, which made it like enjoyable.
Statty, what about you? What's your favorite stadium
Sabi.
that you? What's your favorite stadium that you've ever played?
Favorite I played in? I gotta go. I mean, I gotta go with you. Like when we played at USF, the Buck Stadium's dope, dude. I think that was a really cool place. Was it Raymond James?
Raymond James.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm going down to Raymond James this weekend to watch our good friend Josiah DeGuara play a little football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Let's go. Get 81 the ball. Psycho.
Yeah.
Did you see our question from who is this? Maham Productions, I think. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. But if Sopko was our quarterback versus Kennesaw State, what's the score?
That's an incredible
question. I love it.
Here's the deal. I'm still working out. I still feel pretty good, but not enough cardio whatsoever. The cardio thing would be a huge issue very early on in the game. I think I could. I mean, a good amount. I mean, I don't. If we're playing Indiana this week, it's probably bad news bears out there. But I think against Kennesaw State, I feel confident that I could put up some numbers. I mean, I don't think I put up Ben Bryant numbers right now, but I could sling the rock still a little bit. I think we win. I want to hear what you guys think before I throw out a overly confident number.
I think
20-point win.
I trust you in that. Wow. Damn, that's awesome. I mean, I think you're good enough to go out there now, and I think you could definitely throw a touchdown. But I think just you hitting on that cardio, I don't know, dude. Are you going to mentally be able to stay locked in the whole time? You know,
I'm gonna try, but I would be winded. Yeah, somebody put in the comments here how much does handing off take out of you? Not too much, but enough.
Jason Cooper seems to think that you wouldn't be throwing the ball very much. We'd be handing it to Corey and Chuck and those guys a little bit more than we would if Ben was in.
Well, Jason's not wrong, because when I went in during the games during my career, that's what I did. I was pretty good at handing it off. Some good QB powers.
You carried out your mesh well.
Carried the hell out of my mesh. I think I was averaging like 10 yards a carry, like three carries, 30 yards. That's good. And then a couple of good knees. Feel really good about my form on the knees. So we would have nailed it out pretty darn good too to end that game. I could tell you that much.
We didn't get your favorite stadium you've played in. Stop it.
Yeah, I think the one that always sticks out to me is the one that Joe talked about is UCF game day, and that was like one of those things where we're warming up. Yeah, you're not wrong, Jason. So we're warming up, and it's totally sold out stadium. It's a totally sold out stadium, and like you overthrow somebody in like a go ball and warm ups, people are like, "You stink," blah, blah blah. Like it was just an unreal atmosphere. And then, like you were saying, Joe, so like it was so loud, and so that stadium's so old. They call it the bounce house for a reason, because when they jump up and stuff, the stadium literally shakes. So this is kind of a fun story. So when they're up in the press box, they said that like it was like literally shaking, like the TVs were about to fall off and all this stuff. And we were on the headset, and I was the one calling in the plays. And I don't know if you guys remember that to start that game, we had like 3 straight like false start penalties. Like we couldn't get the play in. It was just a complete shit show. It's because it was so loud. And the first play was called out of the huddle, so we knew the play. We finally got a snap off. And then like this first or the next 2 plays or whatever, I like can't even hear in the headset what the play call is. And I'm the one calling in the plays. So I'm like calling what I think I hear, and kind of like I had memorized the script at least a little bit to be like, I think this is the right play. And I was calling it in, but it might have like, that's how loud it was.
He was calling plays first drive.
Basically, I like was low key the OC for a couple of plays. It was nuts, dude. That was the and I tell people all the time though, like I've been to Browns games. We played at the Shoe, the Big House. Like all those games were sold out. I've never heard a stadium get as loud as it did when we played at UCF.
Were you impressed by the Shoe at all when we played there?
That was depressing because I've been there a couple times. I've been to a couple games, so I knew what to expect. But that was one of those things where I was telling all my boys, like, better watch out, man. The Bearcats are pretty good. Like, this could go some type of way, and then it went very, very poorly for us.
I was at that game. I was at that game, that Ohio State game, and I bought a standalone ticket. Okay, like by a bunch of Ohio State fans because I wanted to be down low enough, but none of my buddies were willing to like pay the money in college to sit down low with me, and I wanted to just experience it, right? Like same way when we went to the Big House. So I sat down low, like by myself. Only time I've ever sat by myself at a sporting event, and we're down low. Yeah, we're down low, and this guy, like these people in front of me, like in the beginning of the game, are like, this is when it's like 0-0, right? They're like cussing out Fickle. They're like, F Fickle, like you traitor. They're like yelling stuff at him. And I'm kind of like, okay, hold up, like calm down. Like there was like one penalty early in the game. I think Perry or someone might have like had a late hit and they were like going nuts. Like, that's what you're going to do, Fickle. They're like yelling. They think it's like Fickle's fault that Perry has a late hit. And anyway, later on the game, it's 42-0. And these guys in front of me, like, are buying me hot dogs and water. They like feel so bad for me at the end of the game. We like become like good buddies. So it was kind of an interesting turn of events. It went from like kind of a little bit hostile in the beginning to by the end of the game, I was getting free hot dogs, free water, free Skittles from these random Ohio State fans around me. And I wasn't complaining. I was sad about the game, but I was kind of like, at that point, I was like, I guess I'll take the free hot dog. It was kind of depressing when they were like giving me free stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, at least it's free stuff. We didn't have a good time either. If it makes you feel any better.
Yeah, I wasn't so much talking about the game, just so much the atmosphere.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
as good as the bounce house.
No, but it also wasn't as competitive of a game.
Yeah. So what? It was noon, right? Was it noon kickoff?
It was a nooner.
So I just don't think there was any opportunity to create for them. Like, they may have got loud twice. But
Jason raises a good question here. He says, like, how much does the blocking change with Bennett QB in the RPO game, like when it isn't part of the playbook?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the RPO game is still a very heavy part of their playbook. And kind of what I was talking about before is a lot of those like quick slants and like glance routes, which is just a deeper slant that you see Ben hitting a bunch that I was talking about earlier. That is part of the RPO game. And he has the ability to pull it. So on stuff like a lot of the zone read stuff, we're still running it. What we always said was when in doubt, hand it out. And we would talk about, like Coach Gino, like guys like me and Ben, when it was kind of, close, you would hand it out. Reading that defensive end, but guys like Dez and Evan, they have more liberty to pull that and take off just because they're a lot more athletic and they're probably going to beat them around the edge. But yeah, to answer your question, it really doesn't change all that much. It's just more so you're calling it for the actual aspect of either I'm going to hand it off or throw it out, rather than with like Dez and Evan, you're more so they still have that option to throw it out, and that's what they're reading. But their first read really is to give or pull.
But here raises the question of the night, though, because our guy Jason here, he wanted to, let you know a few minutes ago that we aren't doing any RPOs with you either. And that's true. But here's my thing. Like, I've seen Evan run with the RPO a few times this year, and I like Evan. I mean, Ben. I like Ben, right? Ben's a nice guy. He's a good quarterback. But his RPO run isn't as impressive. So I'm wondering, like, would you take yourself or would you take Ben on the RPO? Like, we're getting to the outside, getting to the corner of the end zone. Do we want Soppy Boy or do we want Ben Bryant? And I want you to be honest about this.
Soppy can run.
I haven't been impressed by his wheels.
Bit.
Yeah.
Soppy
I would take
times.
I would take me, but it's like
yes.
It's not gonna be a fun race to watch between me and him. It's gonna be pretty even, but I'm taking myself. I have the confidence that I could take off and get us maybe an extra yard or two. But it's not gonna be that fun to watch either of us doing it.
No. I like
I wonder what
10.
I wonder what Coach Fickle would say if we asked him that question.
Yeah, that would. I'd be curious to see what his answer would be. But
All right. Let's talk Indiana. Let's talk Indiana. What are we looking to see this week? What are we looking to do in order to get a win? You know, keep the streak alive in the nip. What are your guys' kind of thoughts and concerns heading into Saturday?
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Indiana's 3-0. They just beat Western Kentucky last week in overtime, 33-30. Idaho 35-22, and Illinois 23-20. So they're 3-0. So it is hard to win games, but three not so great opponents, and it's not like they really blew any of them out or anything like that. So the Bearcats are favored by 16.5. That's a lot. I think it will be a good game, but I would be disappointed if the Bearcats drop this one. I feel like they're clearly the better team going into this.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, biggest thing we got to take care of the football. I think if we take care of the football, then there's no issues behind just getting the win. Indiana defensively they're pretty rough. I talked about it a little bit before the show, but I mean they're 118th in the country in yards given up a game at 446. Us offensively, I mean we're sitting at 480 yards per game, and that's good for 31st in college football. So I think being able to move the ball on them is going to be something that's, I don't want to say easy, but something that we're definitely going to be able to do, especially in the air. I mean they're 94th in the country in giving up passing yards, 255. Ben's got us up at 16th in the country right now at 319. So I'm not saying obviously don't run the ball, but I think there's going to be chances for big plays over top, and I expect Ben to go out there and light it up again for us, and definitely get the job done.
Yeah, I would expect him to sling the ball around the yard a little bit. You guys are huge Corey Kiner fans, and you want him more involved. Do you want to talk about that, Joe?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember. I know, I thought Mike Warren was awesome. I thought Dokes was awesome. Like we've had a lot of great running backs in the Fickle era to be appreciative of. But I remember like when Jerome Ford showed up and ran for the first time, and like when we watched him break away for that long run against Georgia in the Peach Bowl, I remember sitting there watching that and being like, all right, that guy like runs different than everyone else. And that's the way I kind of feel about Corey when I watch him run the football. I don't know why he's not getting as many touches. I'm not really, I'm not a football mind like the two of you, but the way I watch him run just as an athlete and find holes and lower his shoulder into people, like I love watching him run the football. So naturally, just for me, like the way I watch him run the football, I'm like, all right, like let's get him on the field more. So it obviously, like there's a lot more to football than just the way he runs and the way he looks. I know that. So I don't know if Statty wants to kind of touch on that, or Sopko, you want to touch on that, but that's kind of my feelings and thoughts when watching him. So obviously being a Roger Bacon kid, I being a kid from Cincinnati and the way watching him run the football, I just naturally want to see him on the field.
Hi, boys.
Hey, Chad.
So I've got a little bit of an explanation for you, Joe, on the Miami game.
Awesome.
So Corey's in at one point. He comes off the field and he daps somebody up. And when he daps somebody up, they look at their hand and there's blood on their hand. And they're like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, I dapped you up and I've got blood all over me." So he gives them their hand and they start squeezing fingers. And as they start squeezing fingers, blood starts shooting through the glove. So he had split open a finger.
Really?
And that's why he was limited the rest of the game was because he apparently just diced open a finger at some point in time. Like whenever it was that his touches went almost invisible was because he had a giant gash in his finger.
Okay.
I don't like that.
That's awesome scoop. That's why we decided to to work under Chad.
Well,
like
we were
that,
curious. We were curious on Tuesday as well, and that's something I know who was it, Sopko, a couple years ago, like their toe exploded or their toenail.
Was it like a Mike Boone? That sounds like a Mike Boone potential injury.
I can't remember who it was, but somebody like they were like, "Oh, my foot feels kind of funny," and they took the shoe off, and like his toe had just exploded inside his shoe. So like it's one of those football things that sometimes shit happens, and they were like, they were like, should we put him back? Like, do we put him in? Do we not put him in? Or like, can he hold the ball with a giant hole in his hand? Like, that was where. So like when you heard Fickle talking about it, like I don't know exactly what happened. Like if he was available, if he was not available, it was because he did something to his finger. So,
okay.
Yeah, you see that
back
a
to your
lot.
regularly scheduled programming.
That's good to know. That's good insight. You see that a lot with especially like the old school offensive defensive linemen, like the guys like my dads are friends with, and you see like, look at this from back in the day, and their thumb is like, or their pinky's like going out sideways, and they're like, this is what my hand looks like. When it's your starting running back, though, that makes you a little bit nervous. Hopefully they got that taken care of.
Yeah, I mean,
regardless,
he was back at. I'm told it's fine. Everything was fine, but it's like in the middle of a game, you're like, what exactly do we like? How do we handle this?
And Chuck has been super efficient. Like, let's not like. I agree with Jeffrey. Like, Chuck's been awesome, and Chuck's such an easy guy to root for because of the injuries and because of how much time he's putting into the program. Like, that's such an easy guy to root for, and he's actually super talented too. Like, that's. My thing with Corey is just like when you watch Corey run, it's just, to me, it looks a little different. And it's like, you just wonder when a guy only gets 7 snaps, that's just your first question is like, why is that guy not on the field a little bit more? Like, it's not necessarily like, oh, Chuck shouldn't get a lot of reps. It's like, okay, Corey should get a couple more reps than you saw on Saturday is kind of that's where my mind went to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then, we also had, Monty wasn't even dressed. So basically being down 2 backs, Chuck had to take on probably, play a little bit more snaps than, not that maybe he was expecting, but, maybe used to, maybe a little fatigue. But, I think, just hearing that it's more of an injury thing and something, hopefully that's manageable. I think we'll see 2 out there a lot more this week then. But I agree with all you said, Joe. I mean, he's an impressive back. I just talked about it earlier this season, just how that running back room has got talent all over it, and 3 guys that can kind of do it all for you. So,
do you guys have score predictions? Do you have score predictions for Saturday, both of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me, Steady, you go first.
You want me to kick it off? All right.
Yeah, I'll base my answer off yours.
I mean, I've been saying, the Bearcats are gonna actually cover that line given to them. I think I've said that every week, and I'm just gonna keep riding with it. I like us this week at home. I think it's gonna be Nippert's gonna be jumping. I like the 3:30 kickoff. A game at Indiana that I think last year they tried to sneak us a little bit, but this year I think it's pretty obvious we're the better team. We're gonna show it. So I like us. I don't see them scoring more than 20, but I'll give them 20 points, maybe another 40, 41, 20. We get over that 40-point total. So I think it's going to be electric in there, fireworks from the offense.
I love that. I'm going 34-20. Bearcats by 2 touchdowns.
I'm going a little bit more conservative with 27-20. I'm going to go 27-20. I don't think the Bearcats cover. I think they win. I think it's going to be very dependent upon how we start, what the turnover battle looks like. Do we win the turnover battle? I think we're going to win even if we lose the turnover battle. But I'm worried about mistakes, penalties, and how much if we take care of the football. Obviously, if we start fast, I think we're going to be in good shape, and I could easily see a 41-20, 34-20 win. But I'm just a little bit suspect currently.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that, Joe.
I think that's okay. I think that's totally okay. I think you got plenty of reasons to be that way. I think a lot of fans are. But I think this is a big it's a big game because it's the next one. We keep saying that, but this could really set the tone for just the rest of the season and just, keep building on that identity of this year's team. So, yeah, I think we get the job done, like I said.
Do you guys have any thoughts on our good buddy Tom Allen, head football coach of the Indiana Hoosiers? Like, do you have any thoughts on this guy? Do you like him? Do you not like him?
I know a little bit about him. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. The things I've heard about Tom Allen aren't the best things in the world. I know he really grinds his coaches and players really, really hard. But I don't have any strong opinions, but you sound like you do. So I'm going to open up the floor for you to do your thing.
He's the football version of Danny Hurley. Like, for you guys that know Danny Hurley, he's the head coach at UConn, and he's an absolute nut on the sidelines with the refs. That's kind of how Tom Allen is on the sidelines. Like, I remember watching him last year and watching him on TV throughout the last couple of years, and just he's an absolute nut. And I don't dislike the guy. I appreciate his energy and his attitude, but he just kind of seems a little bit nuts to me.
Danny Hurley's a good friend of mine. Easy now.
Oh, my bad.
Easy now.
Now, Chad, I like Danny Hurley. I like Danny Hurley.
You know the funny thing, Joe? He is the calmest, nicest human being in the planet when he's not in between the lines.
Okay.
And he will admit, the minute he steps between the lines, he loses his mind. He's a crazy person. But outside of basketball, he's actually the biggest Bengals fan I know.
Really?
The legit single biggest Bengals fan I know. I'm usually every year at the draft, we're out on the road for AAU basketball. So I'm usually in the same place as Danny Hurley when the draft happens. And he wants to talk about the third string, who's this third string punter we picked up? Who's going to be the backup nickel linebacker? He was, the day they drafted Drew Sample, he was apoplectic. What, we're taking a blocking tight end in the second fucking round? What's wrong? What's wrong with this franchise? I can't and you're right. He is nuts between the sidelines, but I got to give Danny, my guy Danny, some love.
Now, Chad, I love him, especially now. When we're playing against him back in the day, it was this weird rivalry thing. But now, anytime he playing
beats Xavier.
Yes. Xavier, I turn on the TV and I text all my Xavier buddies, and I'm like, this guy is awesome. I love watching this guy coach because he really is so animated. He's a fun watch for college basketball. But when you're playing against him, you're like, all right, settle down, buddy. Let's get back to your bench. But
you guys want to hear my favorite coach story?
Yeah, tell us.
So Mick Cronin and Kevin Willard, that was the head coach at Seton Hall, have been best friends, great friends forever and ever. They date back to being on the Louisville staff, and Mick is close with Ralph Willard, Kevin's dad. So every time that Seton Hall would come to Cincinnati and beat Xavier, Seton Hall had to delay their flight back to New Jersey so Mick Cronin could take Kevin Willard out to a steak at the precinct.
That is awesome.
That
gets me fired up.
He would pick him up, and they would go to the precinct, just Mick and Kevin, and they would have a Jeff Ruby steak and make everybody wait before they would go out to get some food or whatever. And then Kevin Willard would meet back up with his team, get on the private jet, and fly back to Jersey. But only after a celebratory steak at the precinct for beating Xavier.
That gets me fired up.
I thought awesome. You guys would like that.
That's awesome.
That's a great story.
Dang. Joe's gonna.
Should we get into?
Joe's gonna go and get us kicked off, man. After one episode.
Real quick, okay. Before we jump into bets of the week and locks of the week and our little Twitter segment, my one question for you guys is: Tom Allen went on the Jim Rome show today, okay, and he talked about Big Ten recruiting and how it's going to help Indiana recruiting down because of USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten in 2024. Do we buy that like this addition to the Big Ten is going to help Indiana? Like I could see it helping Ohio State. I could see it helping Michigan, Penn State. Do we buy that it's helping the Indiana Hoosiers? Or is this just more like Indiana propaganda that they're somehow at the top of the Big Ten with all these other schools that actually are at the top of the Big Ten?
I don't understand why it would help them. That doesn't really make sense to me, unless this thing is like now that, USC and UCLA has joined the Big Ten, that the Big Ten is the better conference than the SEC and the more glamorous conference. And, somebody who misses out and maybe a recruit who can't get to USC or Ohio State is then going to want to go play for Indiana, a Big Ten team, rather than go play at, I don't know, Mizzou and the SEC. I don't really understand that. Did he like follow up and have an explanation? I guess the only way I could see what he means is saying that like the Big Ten's now the most glamorous conference and you want to play for a Big Ten team. But I mean, I don't know what it has use. I'm not buying it, Joe.
Neither am I.
No.
Neither am I.
In that statement.
I mean, it'll get them more exposure, I guess, but I don't know what high school kid is gonna move like from California to Indiana if that's what he's talking about, just getting further out. I don't know. I feel like it's got to be hard to recruit to Indiana. I don't know. I've never been there, but I just feel like the rest of the state of Indiana doesn't have a ton. So I just feel like it'd be hard for them. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Neither am I.
All right, Roland, are we doing the Twitter segment? Are we not doing the Twitter segment? Or are we just going into the bets?
We got our tweet of the week.
Rolling on 45. We got a tweet of the week.
We got some great tweets this week. We're going to do this new segment, Bearcat fans. We're going to kind of poke fun at some of your guys' tweets. And I empathize with a lot of you. And I empathize with them. And these two know, like, I am the first person to get a little bit emotional on Twitter sometimes and tweet things I regret. So I'm not going to we're not going to come after you too hard, but we're just going to read through some of these tweets, see if we agree, see if we don't agree, and just have some fun with it. So first one here, who wants to read it off? Soppy, you want to read us off this tweet, like in your best narration voice?
Yeah. From Frank, if you're listening right now,
Frank,
thank you for your support. We're not going to roast your tweet. We're just going to give our opinions on it. Can the hashtag Bearcat student section please stop chanting F***K Miami ! No, I love it. I wasn't there, but listening to TV, hearing "fuck Miami." Anytime you can hear something like explicit and vulgar being chanted through your TV, that gets me going. So I'm all in on the chants.
I think Statty, you weren't there early, but I'm pretty sure Miami started the FUC chants, and that's where it led to F Miami. That's kind of how it started. So I was kind of like,
it's questionable.
It was to me, it was just a bunch of college kids having fun. Obviously, like that doesn't mean the Rock of Truth is endorsing it or all about it, but I'm
about it, Joe.
Okay, hey, love it. But I thought it was all in good fun, if that makes sense.
What do we got next?
It was hilarious. I think that's our one of the week.
That's
awesome. Our tweet of the week. I like it.
That was awesome.
It's a great tweet. There weren't many Miami students there, so I thought it made it even funnier. There was only an innocent, maybe 60 of them there. But
all right, and then our last
what you got?
Last segment of each episode. If you're new here, we do a betting. Please gamble responsibly. We like to do a little sports gambling, but nothing crazy, nothing too wild. Each week we give a lock of the week. They don't hit, so take our advice.
8%. Or 8%.
We're hitting 8% right now. I think we all missed last week. I think we're like 1 for 12 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What I had last week is I had Michigan State going out to Washington and covering +3.5, I believe it was. Maybe it was +3. Either way, it didn't matter. They lost 39-28 to the Huskies. So I took another L. Statty, what'd you have?
I had Wake going and whooping up Liberty, and they almost caught the L. I think they were 17, and they ended up squeaking by with a 1-point win. So that's a little nerve-wracking going into Clemson this week for them. But yeah, completely missed on that.
Bad beat.
I can't remember who Joe.
My picks were 0 for 2. That's all that matters. All that matters is my picks sucked again last week. I'm like 1 for 8 on the season. But today and this weekend, we're going to turn it around. That's my favorite part about this segment. So who wants to start us off with their locks of the week?
I have a lock.
Go ahead.
No, I want to save mine for last because I'm particularly excited about mine.
Yep, Chris, we got you. Chris Wise, just hang on with us. We got you. 8% is absolutely awesome. I'm going to get it started. It's the second game on the ESPN app. It's at noon. I think Michigan just blows the doors off Maryland. I don't want to talk much about it. Michigan minus 17, roll them.
Hey, Soppy, I've got a 3-leg parlay here, baby. 3-leg parlay. Yeah.
Wow.
Listen, Baylor money line over Iowa State. Okay, Tennessee money line over Florida, and then Arkansas money line over Texas A&M. If you play those three, okay, you'll make some good money. That's all. That's my 3-leg parlay of the week. There you go.
I mean, what? That's 2+ and 1 big favorite in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is the
dog
there, right?
Yeah.
We're really stepping it up, man. I did not expect that. That's incredible.
Joe just doesn't know how to do a single. It's always something extravagant. I love it.
Hey,
he'll have like a 10 teaser next week or something.
And for fun, just for our listeners, in honor of Chad's buddy Danny Hurley, we're gonna take the UConn Huskies to cover the 38.5 spread against the NC State Wolfpack. That is, and that should be Statty's lock of the week, but that's going to be my absolute lock of the week. My 3-leg parlay is awesome, but that is my absolute lock of the week.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love you just pulling that out of your ass. Dude, I feel so good about this bet.
You've been talking about it all day.
That I might not even bet $10 on it. I might put $20 on it. That's how crazy I feel.
Whoa.
I like the USC Trojans -6 going into Oregon State. The Beavers, I believe, are 3-0. They haven't played anybody good. I don't know if you've watched any bit of USC this year, but Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, they got a really good thing going over there. And I think they're just going to go to Oregon State. I know that's like a weird place to play. I feel like it's one of those places I feel like if you watch a night game, it's got like, you know how they always say like everything's like darker and like bedlam, like at Oklahoma State. Same color scheme, same just kind of weird, eerie vibe. I think it throws teams off. Forget all that. I think USC is going to go like just absolutely break the doors off of them and
business trip.
Roll over the Oregon State Beavers. And that, gentlemen, is my lock of the week.
I love it.
Cool. Joe, do you want to remind them your 3-legger again?
Oh, yeah. Just so they understand, so they can put it in. Go to, here we go. Baylor money line, Tennessee Vols money line, and Arkansas money line. Okay. I have a great feeling all three are going to hit. That's all I'm going to say. I have a great feeling about all three.
Michigan minus 17 and Trojans at night. Taking it. That's your Rocket Truth lock of the weeks. Love it. Good work, fellas. Again, like we said earlier, thank you to just everybody tuning in. First episode with Bearcat Journal, so appreciate it a ton. I had fun, fellas. This is great. Can't wait for next week.
this was a blast. This was a blast, as it always is, and excited to talk to you guys next week after another Bearcat dub. And to all my Browns fans listening, let's summon a big second half so the Brownies can get a dub too. Roll into the weekend feeling good about ourselves, right? You guys like that? All right.
I hope we don't have
I like it too.
I can hear them getting fired up in the comment section right now, just as we're about to end.
They're barking.
I love it.
Dog
all right, fellas.
But hey,
all right, fellas. Hey, and also, hey, before we get off real quick, before we say goodbye, make sure everyone in here is subscribing to Bearcat. Obviously, subscribe to our channels, but subscribe to Bearcat Journal because I know Chad and Aaron and those guys are gonna have a lot of news coming up, especially on the basketball recruiting front. We're in a couple big time races for some big time players, and I think as Bearcat fans, we got to be reading up on all the good stuff happening. So Wes Miller's he's buzzing, he's traveling. So I'm excited about that as well. I know this isn't just, obviously we a lot of football, but also with the basketball team, a lot of excitement going on as well.
For sure.
All right, fellas.
Good talking to Bearcat.
Hey, great episode. Thanks everyone for coming out.
Go Cats, baby.